My favorite Just Works Linux distro has dropped a new release, Linux Mint 20, codenamed Ulyana, which has come out quite recently. And there's been some important changes to it, and these changes are actually part of the reason why I recommend Mint over Ubuntu to new users, because in the past few years, Ubuntu has been doing a lot of things that are just horrible ideas. I don't know if the devs over at Ubuntu are being corrupted by a corporate influence or if it's just repeated ignorance over and over again, but the Linux Mint devs, they actually listen to their end users. And when there's something silly going on or something that the end users just don't like, the Mint devs actually make an effort to fix it instead of just trying to convince their end users that the nonsense or the things that they don't like is actually good for them. So if we take a look at this link here, we can see some of the changes. So the biggest thing is that the Snap Store has been removed from Linux Mint. And I'm sure that there's going to be some Ubuntu fanboys or Snap fanboys that are mad about this and think that nuking the Snap Store is just an extremist decision, but it really isn't. In fact, I would propose that implementing something like the Snap Store in the first place is an extremist decision because it goes against the very principles of GNU/Linux in the first place. You see, the code of these Snap packages is often proprietary and it's unaudited. Now, this isn't the case with all of the Snap packages. Some of them are actually put together by the same team that developed the package in the first place. So the security concern there sounds like it's a bit more minimal. I mean, if the same people who actually write the open source app put together a Snap package, I doubt that they would put some spooky stuff in it. But in other cases, these Snap packages are just put together by a random person on the internet. And if I can't view the source code of what some random on the internet has put together, I ain't gonna run that shit, man. You'd have to be a mad lad to do that. Now, I know for a lot of people that are watching this, that isn't even a concern to them because they're using Microsoft Windows or they're using the Mac OS, so their entire OS is already proprietary. And in terms of Windows, they're already used to downloading random binaries off the internet created by random people and just hoping that their antivirus catches any potential nonsense or spookiness within it. But there's also a performance argument here, in addition to the security and I guess the GNU/Linux purism one. So these Snap packages, they actually take up more space than their normal package equivalents because they package up all of the dependencies that the developer wants you to use with it. So the specific versions of those dependencies and everything like that. You don't have the option of building the package against different dependencies when you use a Snap package, like using a different version, or in a more extreme case, like I've showed you guys on Gentoo, where you can actually build Firefox against LibreSSL instead of OpenSSL. These Snap packages, they also have slower startup times and increased RAM and CPU usage compared to the PPAs or the DEBs. So the increased storage space, that's not even the main problem. I mean, terabyte hard drives and multi-terabyte hard drives are cheap these days, but RAM and CPU is still a limiting factor for a lot of people. So to have packages which in some cases take 10 times longer to start up, or in some cases use 3 or 4 times as much RAM as their normal package equivalents, it's just not a good look. I mean, it's pretty much the same kind of comparison of using Gentoo with optimized use flags versus a binary distro that wasn't compiled with any performance optimizations in mind. And one other thing that I want to make sure that you're aware of in case you really do like these Snap packages is that it is still possible to use them in Mint. You just have to run these 3 commands right here, and then boom, you've got Snap installed on Linux Mint. Ubuntu, on the other hand, doesn't have any easy way to disable snaps. So once again, Mint is the superior noob distro. So let's move on to the actual installation. First, of course, you want to grab an ISO, and you can download either Cinnamon, Mate, or the XFCE desktop environments. I'm going to go with XFCE because that's just my preferred desktop environment. And then you can download it from any of these mirrors here. Again, more than likely, the one that's in your country is going to be the faster mirror to download. And now I'm going to move on to the installation of Linux Mint 20 in Virtualbox. If you want to follow along on hardware, though, you can do the same. The only difference here is that instead of setting up a virtual machine, you're going to be flashing that ISO that you just downloaded to a flash drive, putting it in your computer, rebooting it, and changing the boot priority in your BIOS to boot from that flash drive. But once you've booted from the flash drive, the installation steps will be the same, regardless of whether you're on hardware or a virtualized environment. So let's go ahead and start it up. I'll give it the name Linux Mint, and it should automatically choose Ubuntu as the version, which is what you actually want. If it doesn't choose this for whatever reason, just change the version type to Ubuntu or to Debian. You could probably get away with doing it that way as well. And I'm going to give it 4 gigs of RAM, and Mint by no means needs to have this much RAM. This is just so that everything runs smoother, but you could totally get away with running it on 2 gigs of RAM. And let's increase our storage to about 30 gigs, and we'll make it a fixed size just so everything's a little bit faster. And there's a few other things that I'm going to change in here. I'm going to give it 2 processor threads, crank up the video memory. And one thing that I want to mention here about virtualized environments with Mint 20. So the Mint devs actually recommend you to use the default graphics controller VMS-VGA instead of VBox-VGA. But in my own testing, this didn't provide me with the correct resolution out of the box. I'm using a 16:9 aspect ratio, and this other graphics controller was only providing a more widescreen ratio. So if you're widescreen, maybe that is the best option, but I'm going to stick to VBox-VGA. So we got that. And then, of course, we want to add our ISO. Here we go, Mint 20 XFCE. All right, and I'm pretty sure that's everything. Yeah, let's go ahead and boot this bad boy up. Of course, it's going to start off screen. All right, and then this is what your start page will look like after you boot from your flash drive, or if you're booting from the virtual machine, as you just saw. So I'm going to start Linux Mint. And this is actually what I recommend people do, especially if you're new to Linux and you've got like Windows or whatever on your computer, because this lets you use Linux Mint in basically a live environment. So you can open up applications like Firefox, you can open up the file manager, and you can pretty much play around in this without actually changing anything that's on your hardware. You don't have to nuke Windows to do this. Well, really, you don't have to nuke Windows to install Linux in the first place. You can install it alongside Windows. But yeah, just do this. Make sure that you're comfortable with it. Make sure that it does everything you need. As I've said a couple of times before, for the majority of computer users out there, their entire operating system is really just a bootloader for their browser. So if you're one of those users, then you're not really going to experience any differences between Linux and Windows. I know for other people, there's some things where they absolutely need Windows or the Mac OS to do their work. I'm obviously not talking about you guys. I'm talking about the majority of people who are just using the browser. So anyway, to go ahead and actually install it, you want to double click on this install Mint icon that's on your desktop. And then you can read through all of the release notes here, but I've pretty much explained most of them to you guys. I'll probably leave a link in the description though for people who really want to cover all the new nitty-gritty details. So hit continue, and then select your keyboard layout and your language. Mine's already defaulted to the correct one, English US. And then I'm going to include the Multimedia Codecs. Now, keep in mind, some of these codecs are proprietary. So if you care deeply about software purism, you don't want to do this, and really, you'd be better off using an FSF approved distro over Mint 20 in the first place. And then I'm going to erase the disk and install Linux Mint. You could, of course, do something else if you wanted to dual boot or some type of equivalent to that. And then select your time zone, New York, that's good enough for me. And then go ahead and put in your name. It's going to automatically choose a computer name and username for you. Both of these are fine for me, but you can, of course, change these if you want. And then put in a password. And here you can choose to either log in automatically or require your password to log in. You also have an option of encrypting your home folder, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just on a virtual machine. And then it's going to go ahead and start installing. All right, so the installation is complete, and just like this dialog box says, we can continue testing, or we can just restart now into our actual installation. So let's do that. So we got it booting up right now. And here's our login screen, same one that we had from Mint 19, so no crazy differences there. And as usual, we have our welcome screen with Mint 19. You can always uncheck this to no longer show the dialog box at startup. But the first things that we'll notice as far as differences go, if we go to the first steps section, is that you have this easy area here to set your desktop colors. So you could flip the switch to change it to a dark theme. That's the first thing that I'm going to do. And you can check any of these boxes here to just change the colors. And it's really easy to set this. I mean, it's just right here, one of the first things you see in the welcome screen to set it up. So to anybody who thinks that Linux is difficult, it's literally easier to change your theme in Mint than it is in Windows. And these are also the same color schemes that are available in previous Mint versions. There was some talk about adding more vibrant colors, but after the beta testing, end users decided to just stick with the classic colors. There's a few other changes as well. There's a new application called Warpinator, which is included with Mint 20. And basically, this allows you to send and receive files over your network to other computers that are on it. And of course, you could always set up an FTP server to do this, but Warpinator is supposed to be more user-friendly, as is Mint20 in general. So this is going to make that drag and drop a little bit easier. It's kind of like, what do they call it on the Apple system? It's like AirDrop or Air something. I don't know, but it's a similar idea to that, just user-friendly, really easy to set up and start using. You just have to have both of the computers that you want to transfer files between to have Warpinator installed on it. I don't have it on any other ones, which is why we got our little slanty face guy here that says no other computers are found. There's another change to Mint20. So if you're using a laptop with NVIDIA Optimus, then there is improved support for that. Now in Mint20, you'll have an applet down on the bottom right in the system tray where you can quickly switch from using the Intel integrated graphics to save power and battery, or you can switch to the NVIDIA graphics to have increased performance. Obviously, that's what you would want to do if you're going to be gaming or doing any other type of intense, any other type of work that requires more powerful graphics. And on a more technical note, Mint20 ships with a newer Linux kernel. Let me actually make this a bit bigger. So you can see 5.4 out of the box from our fresh ISO is the kernel that we have installed. And the feature that I probably like the most is some of the redesign that they did in the system tray down here. Everything is so much more uniform, and instead of the icons looking like they were each drawn by a different person, they're all kind of the same way. I don't think that this is a new feature in Mint20, by the way, but I think Mint19 had this as well. But the icons down here will actually respond to mouse scrolling events. So I can scroll up while I'm just hovering over the sound here to increase the volume, or I can scroll down to decrease the volume. Again, pretty sure that Mint19 had that as well. It's just something that I noticed when I was testing out Mint20. And if you're on the Cinnamon edition of Linux Mint, so you're using the Cinnamon desktop environment, there is also going to be a section here in First Steps to change how that panel looks. So there's a new, more modern looking panel that they have. It's a little bit more like the Windows 10, I think they call it Metro theme, where the panel is just a little bit taller, and your applications here, instead of them being kind of wide like this, they're just a little icon that pops up. So that's kind of cool. And on XFCE though, it's just classic XFCE with some slightly more polished icons. Other than that, there really aren't too many differences from Mint 19.3 to Mint 20. If you're coming from a much older version of Mint, then I have a video about Mint 19 as well, where I cover some of the differences there, because there were bigger changes moving from Mint 18 to Mint 19 than from Mint 19 to Mint 20. So that's it for this installation and review of Mint 20. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to share it with your friends, enemies, and neutral allies. Leave a like on the video, subscribe, and tick the notification bell so that you know when new content is being released. See you guys later.